that where they're supposed to imply, well, all these people are smarter than you, so you must not understand. It's not, that argument's not going to work for you for the same reason that all these other arguments didn't work for you. It's because you can think for yourself and you can figure out your own answer.
Yeah.
Right.
So congratulations on that.
All right. Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks, Sammer. That'd be interesting, you know, I mean, if we listed a whole bunch of dumb atheists, would that... Because I could probably list a few.
I could come up with a couple, too.
Yeah, or we could, you know, whenever somebody says, well, Einstein and so did the village idiot. The village idiot in Newtonstown believed in God, too. So exactly, you know, let's set those up and see, you know, is that evidence for anything? Probably not.
You know what, I'm thinking you need a longer show.
Yeah, because we're down to, like, actually under 10 minutes now.
Yeah.
And we appreciate the people who waited patiently through some of the other calls, but we'll try and, actually, I think my line 2 information's wrong, so you might want to check that, because that was from before, but we'll get Nick in Reading.
Hey, guys, how you doing?
Hey, good.
All right.
I just wanted to bring up something that I've never seen you mention in the show, and I've noticed you've had a call or two in the last couple weeks about intelligent design. One of the things I wanted to mention was, by the way, I am a theist, but I'm also an evolutionary biologist. I don't argue with science at all. I guess in your terminology, I'm an agnostic theist in that I do believe, but I would never be arrogant enough to say I know, and I admit I could be wrong. But anyway.
We can hang them.
Yeah, well, that's outstanding. We'll never have contest.
Oh, and yeah. By the way, Aaron, love the videos. But what I wanted to say was that when it comes to the theory of evolution, the big contribution that Darwin made to science wasn't the idea of common descent. That had been around since Anaximander in ancient Greece. His contribution was the mechanism, natural selection, you know, how it happened. And what occurred to me was for intelligent design to be considered in any way valid, they would first have to propose and second demonstrate a mechanism of their own whereby life could be designed. And I don't think they're ever going to do that because that would probably destroy their entire theology.
Yes, exactly, because they depend on it being a miracle. It's the God of the gaps argument. It can only be explicable by defying the laws of physics, as we mentioned earlier in the show, the definition between, or the distinction between the natural and the supernatural. So since they've hung their hat on the supernatural and then declared it science, they painted themselves into a corner. And that this is the best they're ever going to achieve. The beautiful thing about this is that it's going to have to die down. They lost their court case 5 years ago. Their whole agenda collapsed at that point.
I know, I read the transcripts.
Yeah, but not just that event, but a number of other things that went on in the same year. I mean, that's when Kent Hovind went to jail, among other things, and that's when Ted Haggard got hung up. But there were a whole lot of...
do I remember that one?
There were a lot of elements.
He's back and straighter than he was the last time he came back as straight.
According to who?
According to him. By the way, one of the things about the wedge document that we've talked about before and that I'm sure you guys will be familiar with is that I think Barbara Forrest actually pointed this out, that the strategy was actually twofold, the wedge strategy. And one was to kind of undermine evolution.
And the next was to get it out of the schools.
And the second phase was to actually do what you're saying they should do, to demonstrate an ID mechanism.
Really?
That would be an alternative.
Okay, because
there's a direct
going back to a little point that Aaron said earlier where he said it defied the laws of physics, I'm going to say that it doesn't, because it could conceivably be possible for us to design life one day.
But that doesn't imply a supernatural designer. Right. That's what they've hung their hat on.
Well, yeah. They hung their hat in the supernatural. I mean, they always tiptoed around saying it was supernatural. It was, an unnamed designer.
Well, they also said at various points that it could only be a supernatural designer.
But anyway, if you dig around a little bit in the original wedge strategy stuff, and I think there's actually an admission that's, I think, posted on Talk Origins or whatever.
I've read the whole wedge strategy.
Where he's basically saying, we haven't been able to do the lab work.
I found that movement just very, very disgusting, because I am a huge proponent of separation of church and state. The government has no right to tell anyone what to believe, and neither do these religious groups have any right to push their crap on anyone else.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Nick.
Okay.
Yep, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Have a good.
My skeptical radar's going off. I'm not convinced you're a theist. You'll have to provide evidence. I'm just giving Nick a hard time. All right, probably one of the last calls of the day. We got Dave here in Austin.
Oh, hey. I just wanted to touch briefly on this thought that people have about how there is only one God.
Okay.
I just want to say they're reading it backwards. It's not that there's only one God. It's that God is one. The Bible defines God as being everything from A to Z.
But one is the loneliest number.
Right, but it's everything.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. God is everything. We already have a word for that, though. It's everything.
I think they call it cosmos.
Yeah, I mean, we have several words for it. This is one of the things where before when the caller talked about God is love, and then we got God is everything. We talked about this before. Okay, you can play little word games like that, but you first need to kind of recognize that you're adding baggage to something and not justifying the baggage that you've added.
Yeah.
The God label carries with it some baggage, and if it doesn't, why are you using it? I mean, if God is love and absolutely nothing more, then why not just say love? Why are you adding this God word to it? Clearly, you're trying to say something more than just God is love.
Yeah.
And yet, it's almost like you're trying to use that abomination of a word, spiritual or whatever. All right, we got Tick from L.A. Hello?
Or maybe not.
Hello?
Hello?
Hello. Hey, Aaron, how are you? This is Dick Shades.
Who?
Dick Shades.
Okay. This is the
How
guy
are
that
you?
predicted that there was going to be nuclear bombs. According to the Bible, there would be nuclear bombs used to seal the leak in the Gulf.
Right.
Okay.
It hasn't happened yet. So,
You're,
but anyway, I
you're
have a
calling
question
in
for
at
you,
the
Aaron.
very end of the show, so you got to make it quick.
Okay.
Right. Can you tell me why you cannot accept the Bible as the evidence of God? Because
God is better than the book.
the book
If
is
there was a
fiction.
God, if there was a
Fiction
God,
is based on something.
if
that
there
has
was a
to be
God, the Bible.
existing already.
Okay.
So-
The answer to your question, we're running out of time. If God existed, the book that you're talking about would be entirely different if there was a book at all.
Well, that's your opinion.
Okay.
So you got to tell me.
Hang on.
Let's say Harry Potter. Let's say a spaghetti monster. You got to know spaghetti and monster to come up with spaghetti monster. Now you have God here. How can you write anything?
Sir, it's really simple. Man, super. Done.
Yeah. And
Hey, look, Aaron's got more hair than me, so I can then imagine a being that has infinite hair. Hey, look, he runs faster than me. I can imagine a being that runs infinitely fast. There's nothing, this anthropomorphizing of a deity is nothing more than I'm an agent who can act and do this, and I look around and I see other agents who can act and do other things, and some of them do them better. I wonder if there's somebody who can do them perfectly. You act like this nonsense of you have to have these concepts in your head before, so therefore that proves that there's a God. No, because I have to have the concept of the unicorn in my head, and that doesn't prove that there's a unicorn.
there's also the requirement, again, of faith. If the book says you have to believe the book, or else we'll give you the greatest presents in the world if you believe it, and we'll threaten you with a threat worse than death if you don't believe it, and you have to have faith and believe us for no reason. I'm sorry, that doesn't cut it. And then when you come up with whatever else it's trying to extol, I mean, when we look through it, we find things that are wrong, things that don't match up, things that contradict each other. The book doesn't win. There's no evidence for God there. If there is a God, the God did not write the book.
Yeah.
And by the way, while I've got a few seconds left, if
You
I've
don't.
got it, I don't.
Go.
Okay.
Like 5.
For those of you who are interested in this sort of thing, the League of Reason is on Blog Talk Radio or Blog Talk TV on Sundays just prior to this show every week.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll be back again next week, and you all be safe.